So, saw the Quantum Leap trailer for the second time, and it's kind of okay, I guess. Wasn't bad, but it wasn't very good. And I've tried to track this thing carefully, and some of these things don't seem to line up with what I thought they were going to do. Like, we know they're going to do more with the government project, and Ben, the new Sam, who's going to be doing the leaping, but they added a romance plot. It's a lot more action oriented than I expected. It felt like MacGyver, really. And they're really leaning hard on nostalgia. Now, I grew up with the 80s, so I'm not lost, but I'm like, okay, all right. Goonies and Julia Roberts. So, what is the meat? Well, it kind of feels like just a very simple update. I don't want to say lazy, but I did kind of wonder like, wait, he's from the year 2022? That didn't quite make any sense to me. I'm like, wait, would it be more like he should be from the year 2037 and he's leaping back to the 80s? I don't think that's the way it works. So, I don't know. It didn't feel quite right. It would make sense in the original Quantum Leap. Yes, you were in 2020, but you're back in the 1950s. So some things are not adding up, but whatever. Is the cast good? It's okay. I mean, some special effects look really, really terrible. I was really surprised how bad it looked. It looked really, really cheap and really, really bad. I don't see why they needed to do it at all. I guess they want to concentrate on these people behind the scenes that will be helping the new Sam, who is Ben. Okay, I guess, but you know, didn't look very good, so that was a little troubling. And they're adding in a kind of ticking time clock element because apparently he's dying. They don't tell us, but apparently, yeah, he's going to be dying. They need to get him back or he dies. Why? How? Don't know. So it does feel a little bit too close to MacGyver, a little bit too much nostalgia bait. It looks okay, but it definitely doesn't feel like the old Quantum Leap. It has enough genetic ties that it is recognizable, but I don't know. This new Al doesn't have the distinctive style the other Al had, and she doesn't feel like a hologram. She doesn't feel like a hologram at all. It does feel like, oh, they're side by side. Like, we know that. We know clearly she's in the scene with him, but you always have to feel like he is not literally in the same time period, and she feels like she's right next to him. So, like, okay, well, what's the point of that? Kind of iffy. It looks okay. Ben and Addison Augusto, I don't care. It looks fine enough to give it a try, but I thought they were going to go down a much more interesting, different route. And I wonder if they're going to pull the magic card, so to speak. So we'll have to wait and see. So it looks okay. It looks more good than bad, but kind of just a lukewarm recommendation. Then we get to Hellraiser, which looks a lot better, and there are way more reassuring signs. This is going to be very, very good. Does seem like a very talented cast behind it. The things they've been sharing in terms of stills, images, the short trailer, it's all very reassuring. This is going to be at least a very, very good horror film. Again, they could still screw it up, of course, but it does feel like they've got a lot of interesting ideas. They're keeping it tied to the original mythology, at least in some ways. And the new look, yeah, it's very different from the old look. It is going to be more like the Cenobites. Their costumes are skin, and the skin is the costume. Gonna have to wait and see if that works for people. But they shared the new Cenobite. That's interesting. So, apparently it's called Mask. That's what they're gonna go with. And the Chatterer will show up, but he will look very different. So be careful there. So a lot of ties to the old, and the trailer didn't show much, but it did show a few things. People were like, it didn't show anything. It did show us the new Cenobite, but again, we have a lot of questions. Some people thought they were going to just do the Hellbound Heart. No, they're not remaking the first film, and they're not literally doing the source material. So it seems to be sort of in between. And Clive Barker does have some input, but I'm not sure he actually owns or has power, because just because he has executive producer in the title could mean nothing. It could just mean that's a label, it's a legalistic, formalistic thing they gave him because they need to have the rights, but I don't know. I mean, Hulu is definitely on the up path with Prey and some other things, so it definitely has bought itself a lot of credibility. Like Prey, this really should be in theaters, but again, legalities, I guess, it's better to put it in streaming. It looks great so far, and everything they've done is very reassuring. Doug Bradley has seen some things. He says it looks fantastic. A lot of positive signs. We want to wait for the full trailer, which I double checked is not out yet, but again, everything they've shared is very, very good in terms of the approach they're going to take, which is going to be very graphic. I mean, again, it is Hellraiser, so yeah, it's going to have a lot of violence, some sexuality, some nudity, but the one thing I kind of noticed is the plot is kind of weak. It is just basically a female protagonist finds the box, trouble ensues, and that's it. Which, if you know Hellraiser, has kind of always been the problem. It is basically find the box, get into trouble, get out of trouble. It doesn't have the best, most intricate plots you can think of. The mythology itself is very complex, but the plot setup is always fairly basic. So, yeah, it's a little disappointing they didn't go further, but from all the buzz, it all seems very positive. The trailer is very intriguing. So, this one I feel much more positive towards. Kind of okay-ish with Quantum Leap, but much more interested in what they're going to do with Hellraiser. That looks like it's going to be really fantastic. I hope we get other versions of Hellraiser because technically HBO should be creating their own Hellraiser, but nothing going on there at the moment because David Gordon Green apparently is still busy trying to figure out how to conclude Halloween Ends. And there we are. So, soft recommendation for Quantum Leap, but I think a very strong recommendation so far for the new Hellraiser on Hulu.